Look at this glowing triangle. It represents $120 trillion of global GDP, tracking measurable economic output. But look beneath that surface waterline. That visible tip rests on a hidden base of $590 trillion in trapped, recomposable capital locked in siloed ledgers. It accounts for uncompensated caregiving, every depleted watershed, the exhaustion of the workforce, and deferred infrastructure maintenance. Standard economic and technological models ignore this subterranean value. They hoard idle capital to chase phantom demand on the surface, leaving human effort and ecology entirely off the balance sheet. You cannot fix a broken economy by marginally inflating the top triangle. Real stabilization requires engineering a secure way to tap that $590 trillion base and pull it back into the circuit. The World Wide Web was an open-source tool. It allowed connection, but did not respect national sovereignty, protect intellectual property, or compensate its builders. Because of that initial design, 25 companies now control the digital substrate for 195 nations. A handful of hyperscalers own the private cables, the cloud servers, and the AI data centers that run the world. This concentration split our data in two. Every digital node holds fragments of two severed ledgers. The information ledger pays for what you do. It tracks your wages and your raw productivity. The other half is the sovereignty ledger, tracking who you are and what you care for, your purpose, the health of your local ecology, and your time spent stabilizing your family. Right now, this ledger remains uncompensated. When productivity extracts from a community without acknowledging purpose, it creates a localized wound. We measure this fragmentation as JADO. As long as those ledgers remain severed, our communities will continue to lose value. The open-source model causes chaos, and the proprietary model extracts wealth. The Sovereignty VPN offers a third path, a network that is co-built, compensated, and sovereign. Look at how data moves in this architecture. We use a mechanism called Lock 7 custody. Your SCADA systems, workforce files, and customer records never leave your local hardware. The broader network queries your node for answers, but it never collects the raw data. Eliminating the centralized data lake removes the primary target for hackers. This architecture lowers breach liability and satisfies strict privacy regulations, like GDPR and the EU AI Act, through its physical design. Artificial intelligence operates differently here too. Instead of scraping unprotected data to fuel inferences, AI agents act strictly as witnesses. They learn from validated, localized patterns of truth without extracting proprietary property. Absolute data security and unbiased algorithms do not require better firewalls. They require a fundamental refusal to centralize the data in the first place. We have modeled the latent public data. We built the protocol, but the circuitry remains dormant until individuals actively grant permission. We need your warm data to close the circuit. Watch these dormant nodes light up as people use the Sovereign portal. Through a series of steps, individuals log in to permit access, witness their connections, attest to their lived reality, contribute their missing fragment, and cohere with their circle. Opening the portal becomes a daily practice. It reveals the exact coordinates where your economic productivity directly aligns with your community purpose. Within this grid, the local utility acts as the primary calibration point. They hold the unique power to reconcile the 1% of ratepayer energy data with the 99% of household and workforce ledgers. The mathematics and the protocol are ready, but technology can only provide the wiring. It is the active, human permission of the Ignition Cohort that ultimately closes the loop. Look at the geometric weights moving across this scale. The network disposes of JADO through reciprocal watts, balancing the production-consumption equilibrium. When the scale hits zero, the circuit closes. Fiat currency is distributed directly to individuals, paying for economic labor and human care. The builders fund this transition directly. Early adopters receive a temporary pioneer dividend for initiating the network, while organizing entities like the utility receive a permanent entity dividend for holding the lens. Once the network maps enough data to reach full coherence, the system transitions from a deficit model to one of abundance. The ignition period ends, and the network operates on the massive capital it has successfully unlocked. Maintaining a healthy, recomposed society is a continuous act of architecture. Organizing entities are rewarded with a permanent dividend because the work of convening a community is never finished. When the Sovereignty Ledger finally compensates for care and purpose, it removes the chronic stress of the fragmentation tax. We can measure the result in lower cortisol levels and the physical restoration of 3.6 years of life expectancy to the workforce. Watch this biological pattern expand. By pricing planetary health and the unborn into the daily ledger, we create a stable metabolic system. This foundation allows humanity to move into the next phase of our expansion beyond our own planet. Utilities, hyperscalers, and grid operators have spent decades chasing isolated fragments of a broken economy. It is time to stop chasing the visible tip and start completing the whole. Bring your warm data permission. Join the Ignition Cohort as a co-builder and keep your ledgers under your own command. Truth begins at your balance sheet. Reclaim your sovereignty, and the circuit closes for all.